Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wix Studio TV YouTube channel and welcome to another Make It Monday. Now, you'll probably notice that this one is a pre-recorded one and it's not going to be live. So I do have a couple things to mention before we actually get started. Firstly, if you want to follow along with this build that we're doing today, then you can actually click the link in the description to join the new forum community and grab the assets so you can build along with me. And the second thing I want to mention is since we are not doing this live, it is kind of hard to get your questions answered. So if you do have any questions, again, you can join the new forum community, and that's probably going to be the most effective way to get your questions answered quickly. But without further ado, here is what we are going to be building in today's video. So we're going to be building a really nice agency website right here. And we're going to be building it all the way until this section down here where it kind of has like the blog post. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Wix Studio. So here in Wix Studio, the first thing I want to do is build the hero section, and it's going to be pretty large. So I'm going to grab the hero section and I'm going to come over to height. And for now, let's make this like 1300 pixels. And inside of this, I want to add our image. So we're going to go to add, media, show more, and we're going to grab the hero background PNG. Just going to add this. And for this, what I want to do is actually click the lock button to lock the aspect ratio. And then for the width, we're going to set this to be 100%. And you're going to notice it basically fills the screen now, which is exactly what we want. And then I'm going to send this image to the very top. So now that we have this image in place, what I want to do is grab the section and we can remove the height just like that. And then lastly, I want to grab the header, and I actually want to set the position type from default to pinned, and that's going to place it right over the hero section, and we'll be able to see our nice little gradient and kind of graphics behind the header. And I think that looks really, really cool. Inside of this section, we're going to have a heading text, a paragraph, and a button. So let's go ahead and start by adding a heading 1 title here. Then let's add a quick little paragraph. And then for the button, I'm just going to grab this one from the header and we'll paste it down below. Now for the design for this, all I did was remove the background color, added a border color, which you can see the hex code is right here. We made the width of the border 1 pixel. And then for the text, we should actually be using enter bold. And again, we're choosing the same color and the font size is about 14. Perfect. And for this text here, what we're going to do is just type in the text really quickly. And for these text elements, let's go ahead and replace the text. Okay, for this heading text, what I would like to do is align this text to the center. We're also going to expand it out to be to where it's 2 lines instead of 3. And then we're going to position it right here in the middle. For this paragraph text, let's go ahead and expand it a little bit. Again, we're going to want it to be centered, and we'll place it right underneath the heading text. And then for this button, we'll go ahead and place it right about here. Now we can grab all 3 of these elements and stack them together. And I'm just going to position it right about here. And I think that looks pretty clean. Great. For the next section that we're going to build, it's going to be kind of a list of the clients. So let's grab the background. Let's grab the section and change the background color. Let's give us some room to work with by setting it to like 900 pixels. I also want to come down to the position area, and under docking and padding, let's add 5% padding to all sides. So we'll add it to one side, and then we can apply to all sides by pressing this link. And you'll notice it added this padding all along the section itself. Perfect. Inside of this section, we are going to have a heading 2 title that states our clients. This text is going to be centered, and we can send it to the top middle. Perfect. Underneath that, we're just going to have a simple paragraph. So I'm just going to copy this one from the stack above and paste it here. Perfect. And we can even grab these and stack them together. Now, I will say with this section, it is typically nice to have cells or break this up into a grid. So what I'm going to do is actually grab the section and we're going to add a cell below, just like that. And you'll notice it added this cell down here, but what we're going to do is just resize this. And we're going to bring this one all the way up to where it hits the stack. Perfect. Underneath, in this section right here, we're going to add kind of a list of different clients. So what we're going to do is add a repeater. So we'll go to quick add, grab this repeater. For the width, let's set this to 100. For the width, we'll set this to 100%. And we'll send it to the middle. Inside of this, I do want there to be 6 items. So we'll go ahead and add 3 more items. And I also want the number of items per row to be 6 as well. So we should have something that looks like this. Inside of the item, let's remove the background color. And then all we're going to add is a logo. So what I'm going to do is grab logo 1. And we're going to place this inside of it. Perfect. And we can change out the rest of these really quickly. Okay. The next thing I want to do is maybe give it a little bit more space in between the items. So with the repeater selected, what we're going to do is give us like 42 pixels of spacing in between. Maybe we need a little bit more. So we'll do like 64. And I think that looks pretty good. This vector image seems to be kind of big, but there's not really much I can do about it. Let me see. I'm just going to change this one really quickly. Okay. The next thing I want to do is remove the height from each of the repeater items. So we'll go ahead and set this to 0. Perfect. And now that we changed the height of the repeater item, what I want to do is grab the cell itself or the section itself, and we'll remove the height. So now we should have something that looks like this. And I think that looks pretty clean. Now I will say, because we are using this vector art with the spacing here, I'm not adding space in between the cells, but most likely what you're going to want to do is actually have the space in between the cells. So if you grab the section and come over to the vertical gap, maybe you can do like 2.5 VW and add a little bit of space there. And actually that doesn't even look bad, but I will say because this vector art does already have space there, I am just going to remove the space or the grid gap between the cells. And I think that looks pretty clean. For the next section, it's going to be the team. So what we're going to do is, again, give us some room to work with. Change the background color. Add our padding that we had on the other pages. And we're going to follow the same exact steps that we did up here. So I'm going to grab this stack here and I'm going to add a cell. And inside of this top cell, we're going to add this text, send it to the top. And instead of saying our clients, we're going to say our team. And we're going to resize this. Perfect. And I actually do want to add a little bit of a grid gap here. So let's add like 2.5 VW. And inside of this, let's actually split this again. So we're going to split this into 2 grid cells. So we should have something that looks like this. Inside of this top one, let's add an image. So we're going to do top images right here. And I'm going to lock the aspect ratio. and set this to be 100% width. And we're just going to send this to the top. But we need to make sure we have it in the correct grid cell, and then we can send it to the top. Great. Now let's go ahead and do that for the bottom as well. So I'm just going to copy and paste this image. Make sure it is centered and sent to the top. And we're going to change this image to the bottom images. Great. Now with the cell, we can go ahead and bring this up to the top. And then with the section itself, we can remove the section height. Now what I will say is for these images here, I do want to add a slight interaction to these. So if we go over to interactions, go to scroll and add, what we're going to do is leave the animation path to go to its design. So this is going to be the end point. We're going to press move and we're going to press adjust. Now I do want this to come over from the right hand side. So we're going to set this to 90. Instead of 400 pixels, let's do like 200 pixels. And just for fun, we'll switch this over to a responsive value, which actually we should probably do like 30 VW. And then for the animation path, we should probably set this from 0 to 100. So as we scroll up, it's going to be coming into screen. And then maybe right about here, we should actually stop the animation. So you can see this red line right here. This basically showcases where you are on the screen. So you can see as I'm scrolling, the red line is moving. So maybe when we get right about here, we want the animation to stop. So right about 55%. And I think that looks good. To make sure we save our animation area, we need to make sure we come over to adjust or press this little back button here. And now we are done. For this bottom image, let's do the same exact thing. We're going to go to scroll, leave it as to its design, move, and then press adjust. But for this one, we're going to set it to come in from the left. So we'll set it to 270. We're going to do 30 VW. And we actually have to switch it to VW. And then for the animation path, maybe we should stop it right about here. So it is going to stop a little bit later than this top one, to make it seem like they're not fully in sync. So, oops, I forgot to save it. So let's make sure our animation path is saved, which it looks like it is. Okay, cool. So if we go ahead and press preview, and we scroll up a little bit, here is what we are going to see. And I think that looks really, really cool. Fantastic. One thing I will say about the spacing here is with this section, we have 5% on top, 5% on the bottom, and then we have 5% on top here. So basically we have 10% of spacing here and only 5 here. So we should try to keep things a little bit more consistent. So we can either add an additional 5 here, or you can remove the top margin here to keep it consistent. I do think the 10 looks pretty nice. So I'm going to come over to the design tab, and for the top margin of this section, we're going to set it to 10. And now everything looks spaced a little bit more consistently, and it looks a little bit nicer. Okay, the next section that we are going to make is going to showcase some of the advantages of working with this agency. So once again, we're going to set the background color. We're going to make this pretty large, so we'll do 1200 pixels. And then we will add our 5% padding and apply that to all sides. Fantastic. For this one, we are going to split this into 2 cells or 2 columns. And I am going to move the cell to be about this size. And we are going to want to add a little bit of a grid gap. So let's select the section and let's add like 5 VW as the spacing. Great. Over here in the left column, it's going to be very simple. We're just going to have a heading to text. And this is just going to say some of our advantages. And we're going to send this to the top left. And we're going to set this to wrap. So let's grab the item or the element, and we'll position it to be like this. And you'll notice because we set it to wrap, the text wrapped to the next line. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and grab this button right here, copy it, and I'm going to paste it below. We'll put it right underneath this text here. And we'll grab both of these elements and stack them together. Great. And that's all we really need for this left-hand side. For the right-hand side or column, let's add a repeater. So we'll go to quick add and we'll add a repeater. For this repeater, we are going to set the width to be 100% and we're going to send it to the top. Now for the repeater items itself, I do want there to be 6 items, but I want there to only be 2 per row. And let's just go ahead and add the other 3 items. So we should have something that looks like this. For the spacing, I do want there to be like 42 pixels of spacing in between. Maybe not even that much. We can maybe do like 24, but we want to make sure that's consistent. So we'll do 24 for the horizontal or vertical gap as well. Inside the repeater item, let's remove the color completely. And inside of this, we're going to go over to our media and we're just going to add this little icon right here. Let's go ahead and lock the aspect ratio. And we're going to set this to maybe be 54 pixels in size. And we'll send it to the top left. So we should have something that looks like that. Underneath that icon, we're going to want to have some text. So let's do like a heading 6 font. We'll change this to white. And the font itself should be Enter. And we'll do Intermediate. And we will set the text to wrap. Okay. I'm going to set this to be about this right underneath the actual icon image. And I'm just going to bring in the size of the element to match the width of our item here. And then last but not least, underneath that, we're just going to add a paragraph. Now this paragraph, once again, let's set this to be wrap, and we're just going to position it just like this underneath the heading text, and the width is filling the full item here. Perfect. So let's go ahead and grab all 3 of these items here. We'll stack these together, and let's also add, and now what we can do is remove the height from the item itself. Perfect. So now we should have something that looks like this. I will say, I do think we should have a little bit more spacing in between the items vertically. So let's go ahead and set the vertical gap to 48. And I think that looks a little bit cleaner. And now I'm just going to spend a little bit of time replacing all of the items. And now I'm going to spend a little bit of time replacing the icons and the headings for each of these items. Okay, perfect. So now all I want to do is grab the section, and we're going to go over to the height and remove it just by entering 0. And it's going to automatically send it to its minimum content line. Great. So now let's move on to the final section of our website, and that's going to be the blog. So once again, we're going to change the background color. We're going to give us some space to work with, and we are going to add our 5% padding and apply that to all sides. Fantastic. For this one, we are going to split this into 2 cells. So we should have something that looks like this. And I am just going to grab one of our stacks from above, paste it in the top cell here, and send it to the top. And then we'll, since the company name is Olymp, I'm going to say Olymp News. And we are going to resize this and add a little bit of a gap. I think we were doing 2.5 VW as the gap here, and I think that looks pretty clean. Once again, inside of this, we are going to add another repeater. So we're going to go to quick add a repeater. Let's set the width to be 100% and we'll send it to the top left or top middle. For the item itself, let's go ahead and resize it. And for the repeater item, let's add a little bit more of a gap. I think I want to do like 24 pixels here. I think that looks pretty good. And we will apply that to the bottom one or for the vertical gap as well. For the item, let's go ahead and remove the background color. And we're also going to apply a CSS grid. And what we're going to do is just add a second column. Oops. Scratch that. What we want to do is add another row. So we're going to have 2 rows. Inside of this top row, we're just going to have a typical blog image. So what we're going to do is grab one of them from our media library. Let's resize it so it can fit inside of the item and we can attach it. We're going to send it to the top left. We're going to send it to the top left. Let's lock the aspect ratio and then we're going to set the width to be 100%. Just like that. Fantastic. Now what I want to do is actually grab the repeater item itself. We're going to come over to the row height and we're going to set this one to minimum content. Now I will say is in this bottom row, we're going to add text content, but we do want to have a little bit of a grid gap. So let's add like 24 pixels here. And then we can easily switch this over to a responsive value. So you can see it's 1.9 VW. And just so we have a little bit more room to work with, I am going to come over here and maybe add like 200 pixels of spacing for now. And inside of this, we are going to add a little paragraph element. So we'll go over to text, paragraph, and before I put it in the repeater, I am going to change this to like, say digital marketing or something like that. And we're going to set the responsive behavior to hug. And that's going to get rid of all of the extra space. And now we can move this into the repeater and you'll notice it copied the digital marketing and its settings across all of them. So we're going to send this to the top left. Just like that. Then let's go ahead and add another text here. I think what we're going to do is I like the sizing of this text. So let's just grab this one and we'll paste it in here. We'll place it right about here. We'll stretch it and we'll make sure the responsive behavior is wrapped. I do think for this one, I do want to do a bolder font. So we'll do bold. Fantastic. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the content out here really quickly. And now that I've changed the photos and the text, what I want to do is just make sure our content is stacked together here for our text elements. Then we can grab our row and we can set this to minimum content. Fantastic. And last but not least, what we need to do is grab the section and we'll remove the height. And I do also think with this footer image, I do kind of want this to be a little bit behind. So what I want to do is do like negative 350 pixels. So we should have something that looks like that. And I want to grab this image and I want to switch this from a pixel value to a viewport responsive value. And we should have something that looks a little bit cleaner. But if we go ahead and press preview, what we can see is a really nice looking agency website built inside of Wix Studio. And there you go. But that's basically gonna wrap it up for today's Make It Monday. If you all did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and subscribe to the Wix Studio TV YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to click the link in the description to join the new forum community and get the assets to follow along with this video. I appreciate everyone for checking out the video and I will see you in the next Make It Monday.